philosophers have spent thousands of years and thousands of pages trying to understand what does it mean to experience something. But Giussani has a particular idea about what it means to experience something, and it comes from his understanding of the human person. There's actually a wonderful article on how Giussani uses the word experience. It's in Communio magazine, written by Father Anthony Lopez. And here I wanted to just bridge this question because it's the center question that I wanted to get at today. What does Giussani mean when he says human experience? What does he mean by this word experience, and how is it different from what Dewey means?
So he doesn't mean what we simply undergo. He doesn't mean that experience is what we do, right? So that has been the popular contrast that's been made, that there's something like a tradition, right, which is mere content, and then experience is what we undergo. Rather, the human being is perpetually experiencing. Giussani, of course, while offering his own sort of unique read on it, is drawing from an extensive tradition within sort of philosophical and theological understanding in the church, that within sort of Christianity, that experience is the fullness of the human sensation, the human life in all of the way that it's lived. It's the intellect and the thinking and the wondering and the imagining and the reasoning and that whole sort of sense of experiencing. That is what it means to be human. And even in some ways, the tradition itself is already for Giussani an experience, right? Mm-hmm. It's the experience that's been handed on to you across time and space and across the tradition. It is also the experience of a primordial experience, right? That initial encounter with the person of Jesus. So experience has this richness that I think the Latin word for it, like sensio, the sensation, but not just pure sensation, but of wonderment, of understanding, of like fullness. It's just this deeper sense of experience than simply that which is undergone. Right? Experience is not that which is simply undergone. It is the fullness of what it means to be human, all together. When I look outside and, if I look outside and gaze at a tree and the thoughts that come along with that, and what I know and what I've received before, and also the very aliveness of myself, all of this is part of the experience of being human.
Well, this is great. We're getting some fantastic questions in the Q&A, so I want to move to that in a minute. But I will just highlight again, the article I mentioned from Communio by Father Antonio Lopez makes this point, as you just said. For Giussani, experience isn't only doing something in the world. Experience isn't only perceiving something. There's this kind of sense in Giussani of an original experience, which is an openness to the mystery and the transcendent. But that kind of original experience is also, as you said, the human ability for wonder and awe and sort of staring at the goodness of creation with a kind of contemplative gaze. We don't have to, whereas for Dewey, everything becomes an instrument. Knowledge is always an instrument, right? Knowledge is always supposed to, and that's actually what some people like about it, that in Dewey, like, there's a problem to be solved and you fix it and you go on to the next problem and you go to the next one, you go to the next one, you go to the next one. Problem is, in Dewey's framework, there's never a place for pure awe or pure contemplation, because all of knowledge is instrumental. It's supposed to do something. And what Giussani is pulling us back to is, hey, look, all that's good, that's fine and dandy, but that's not the fullness of the human experience. Love, joy, they're not instruments. And experiences of love and joy tell us something fundamentally true about who we are as human beings. And people have questions about the origins of things that can't be answered with a kind of instrumental scientific form of knowledge, right?
Yeah, and it's that knowledge. I mean, for Giussani, rather, truth. He takes this sort of Thomistic approach to truth, and then sort of defines it anew. Right? It's the adequation of the intellect, our ability to understand, to wonder, to imagine, to reason. That's what intellect is. But it's all that our desire to understand with reality, and that's truth. It's a correspondence, but not a correspondence like I have a thing and then I share it with you across the thing directly, but it's more like a attunement, a correspondence like that's it, that's the thing. And it's not like a kind of weird intuition, but it's precisely, I mean, in some ways, this is how other theories of knowledge focus. I mean, when it's even how science focus happens, right? What does the scientist do when they come to understand the interrelationship between two things that they couldn't understand before? What is that act that takes place? It's insight. It's an explosion of insight, which is not just, oh, like this is a method and I know that the equation works. It comes with this energy, with this excitement to see like, this is it. Like this is the thing. And it's that kind of truth, like that is what it means to recognize the truth. And that truth exists, right? The task for all, but Guissani, unlike a certain kind of traditionalism, wouldn't say like, well, that's easy to do, right? Like we just gotta pass on these ideas to people and they'll get this truth. The task of truth is the risk of discovery, right? Is it true? And the gift of, you know, in Christianity, at least when I tell my students, like the risk you take with your students is that you have to give them the space to discover this truth, because you must trust that what's given actually allows that, right? So that's the truth, and that's what makes it fun, is it really is the interplay between that which is proposed and the person, of course, always lived within community.